and it's just a little different this time. Sonia said that she bought a MacBook and she was having problems going live. At first, I had some problems going live, and now I don't have any problems going live. It's just I can't see the camera right now. And it says I'm live though. Oh, there we go. It was up. It was scrolled all the way to the top. So there's just so much to talk about. Sonia wanted to talk about her time when she was teaching at Kennedy. And when she was teaching at Kennedy, I was at Kennedy too. My children were at Kennedy. And Kennedy had a lot of things going on. And I really don't believe that we as a people really understand the public education system. We need to do more and we need to understand more. We can't live in this country and pretend that we have no obligation to share a concern as to how dollars are being allocated to the public school system, or what the law says around compulsory education, because it's true. We are truly being positioned to be the harvest, and our children are the harvest. If you really understand the harvest mentality, and you've been going to church, we've gone to church all of our lives, and we know that if you sow seeds, the harvest that you reap is just basically from what you put in the ground. And you do have a responsibility to share and understand that whatever God gave you, it needs to be a blessing. And a blessing to you and a blessing to other people. For whatever reason, I can't see anybody online. And I could probably, I got my little person out there. And let's see. I don't know if I can find people that are online right now. Oh, here's the chat thing. I don't want to create a new room either. There's all kind of things that you could do here. I'm not going to try that. But I don't know if you can create a group. Oh, well, you can, but I don't even know how to use it in this where I am. But, I wanted to go online and I wanted to talk about public education. I really want to talk about special education because right now, special ed seems to be a problem. And special ed is not a problem. Special ed means that every child is learning differently, and every child learns differently, and every child needs something different. Now, how does that happen in the public school system or in a classroom where all children are actually, not achieving at the same level? Well, it just happens. It's like magic. And I didn't even understand the magic. But, when Tyler was going through school, that's my youngest child, well, he was in the spectrum, and he had a language disability, and quite frankly, autistic is what he was. But, I was working at Los Rios that time, during the time I got pregnant with him, and I was exposed to chemicals. And, we can't pretend that chemicals don't have some kind of effect on the body. And that is a life issue. But, just all the things that happened around that time gave me an opportunity to really understand public education. And I truly do. And so here we are, living in the year 2020, and our children are at the bottom of the barrel. And, every time they have a school district meeting, I still watch. I watch the school board meetings because it's important to understand what's happening. Why is it that Sac City Unified School District is disproportionate with special education students and have been disproportionate with special ed for Black children for a long time? And even when they were, and then there was something where they were supposed to help children who were second language learners, become proficient in English. And they would get right up to the point to where they were making it, and then all of a sudden it would kind of fall through the bottom. So here we are, and we don't have a baseline for special ed. I served on the CAC with Angie and a whole lot of wonderful people. And, and I also served as the chair for the District Advisory Committee for Compensatory Education in Title I. And I got to have an opportunity to participate at the state level for parent involvement. And I also got to participate at the district level for special education and at the district level for compensatory education. What does that mean? Oh my God, it means that, all the money that comes to the school district is from the community. Taxes, everybody pays taxes. Federal taxes, state taxes, local taxes, it's money. But we have money to support and sustain community programs, public services. And then we have third party people who get grant money who are providing those services also. But you have to check yourself before you wreck yourself, because if you have grant money and it's not a requirement that you actually have to meet the needs of those children, because the only mandated requirement is from the public school system, from the public district, from the district itself. So what can we talk about special ed? Why is it that special education is so mortified? Why do people think it's so bad? Because it's not. It really is education the way you need it. And, under IDEA, they had, resources available at the federal government for children with disabilities. And they said that they were going to be providing these resources during the time of COVID to simply support families who have children with disabilities. And there are so many resources you have access to. But first, you have to have an assessment. Everybody has to know where they're starting from. Everybody has to have a baseline so that you can measure the maintenance of effort, the work that's put into the support for your children. Because if you're not measuring anything, you're not monitoring anything, then nothing is happening. How is it that we have so many children in special ed with good grades, excellent grades, A's and B's? You know what they're getting grades for? Behavior. We have changed our society, and now it is not about academic anymore. It's about behavior. Social and emotional learning. That's what they call it. What is social and emotional learning, you might ask? Willful defiance, you might say. How is it that children in high school have papers that are files? I won't say papers, I'll say files, with all the incidents from kinder on up. And that information follows you right to the courthouse. And I have a video on my YouTube, where the district attorney was talking about, yeah, that's true. And then, I've been to so many meetings, and we have to understand that for every young person who is incarcerated, there's a lot of money that goes to, the system to sustain that kid in the juvenile hall. I think it's like $187,000, but it's 200 something if someone goes to prison, after they're an adult. It's more money, but that's your tax dollars. And then you have to know that tax allocations for justice, prisons, you see these commercials on every day. It's kind of like, now the police, call the police, they won't come. They're going to have to, tell you that they'll get back to you in a couple of days and you'll just be robbed or whatever. Come on now, seriously, is America really that bad? It's not. There are parts of America that are so wonderful, and people love each other, you know what I'm saying? And communities function. But that's where people are given opportunities. But yet and still, when so many people have to depend on the system and the system's not working, we need to check ourselves, because that's just fraud. It's nothing but fraud. How is it that, I'm living here in Clark County right now, and that's Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is lit up, it's beautiful, all the lights and all the action, but there's a lot of homeless children, homeless youth downtown, and there's something called the Courtyard, but they have more than 15,000 homeless youth on the street living. And now this COVID is here, and we've got COVID. And we don't even know what COVID is. But apparently, the reality is it's like the flu. They don't have a cure for the flu. And, Dr. Sebi said he did have a cure for, however, AIDS. But now I don't want to get AIDS, and I don't want to get the COVID either. I don't want to get anything that's going to be painful to me. I want to live as long as possible and want to ensure that as we're living in Americans, that we are citizens and that we're respected for our level of intelligence and that we can critique and criticize public services when they're not working for us and that we have a voice. I mean, you don't have to really understand how much money you pay in taxes until somebody wins a lot of money. And then that money has come right out of their pocket immediately. Or a baseball player or a basketball player or a sports person in sports. Entertainment. There's so much money in that. And then let's think about it. Comedy, comedians like Cat Williams and hey, there's just a ton of black people who are so gifted and they share their talents with the rest of us and we pay. But let's not pretend that we somehow are not relevant in America. We are relevant. And the offer of a free and appropriate public education comes with the responsibility of people joining in and actually participating in the oversight. So, here it is all this time. 1964 was a long time ago because it's 2020. And it was a long time ago because I was born in 1958 and I'm 60. What? I'm 62. Pretty soon I'll be 63 and won't even know my age. That's a joke. But not too much of a joke. I just want to say that, there's no matter what happens tomorrow. Today you have to be responsible for yourself. If you have kids, you need to ensure that those children are functioning at a level of sustainability. There's a word for you. What does that look like in the public education system? Well, honey, I really don't know. What are the letter grades really weighted under? Somebody needs to help me with that because at Kennedy, in the 12th grade, for all those young black men who were below basic, in 2004, not one African American male scored above a 2004, above 2.0. And I know that because my son, although he was gifted and gate in every state assessment he took, well, he barely got out of Kennedy High School with a 2.0. And that wasn't because of level of intelligence. But when when we were going to high school, my cousin Veronica, she was enrolled in a program, cosmetology. And Angelique Martin told her that she could get credits and use that credit for the cosmetology for graduation towards history. Because she had taken history and U.S. history and flunked it so many times, but it had to do with who the teacher was, not necessarily, who she was as a student. And come on now, what the hell is a letter grade when you've gone to school for 12 years and then you don't get nothing? Somebody needs to just help me with that basic understanding that if you go to school for 12 years, you come out and you don't get anything. What is that all about? Because that's what we're paying for. We're paying to ensure that our children are functional, that this is America, and that America is a strong nation with independent people who understand how to advocate for themselves. Because it's all about advocacy. Life is about ensuring that support happens for you and that you can measure and monitor the support that you're getting. It's called, maintenance of effort. What does that mean and what does that look like when it comes back to the local school system? Well, it just looks like the children are thriving. But when you have so many children that fail to thrive, shouldn't you question that? Shouldn't you question that? They always have event logs. Let's see. I don't have any errors today. And it says my signal is good. That's amazing. I had to work with it for a minute. I had to file some complaints with the Fair Trade Commission in regards to, the monitoring that happens on your digital devices. I mean, you buy them one day and they're supposed to operate in the manner in which they're supposed to work. But then all of a sudden, You got all these errors, and you wonder where those errors are coming from. They're coming from network managers. They're watching. They watch every day. They watch you. They can see you on your cell phone. I mean, you can be seen. My car is parked on a certain wherever, and it tells me your car is parked. That's because, I guess I GPSed it to my car, and now it knows where my car parks and tells me if my car is home or not. I wonder if that would work. I mean, it should work if somebody steals it to tell you where your car is parked, right? It's got that GPS. Everything has GPS now. It's a new car, and it's a blessing I got a new car because my mother got the new car. I told you I'm blessed. I'm just blessed and highly favored. See, I mean, you have to understand that we're Americans. We don't have anything else to cling to. We were born here. Generationally, I can think back to my grandfather, Pete Thomas, and my grandmother, Della Mae Williams. And, there are people that we're connected to, that we were raised with, and then there are people that we're connected to that we weren't raised with. I mean, that's the burden living in America. I have a sister in Cleveland, Ohio, and Chandra Phillips is her name. And quite frankly, I haven't seen her since she was a baby, since my dad died. I mean, but life is real, right? We're all kind of like, I mean, we were born during the time of, welfare and no men in the house and, all kind of crazy things that, that you could see the movies, and the movies told those stories. But we're living those stories, and we're living them every day. Wonder why. You can hear Stevie Wonder or, my God, every major artist attempts to tackle public education. Tackle it. Just want to know what's happening with the people. Because, they're entertaining, but their lives are so wonderful. I mean, because you watch R. Kelly's backyard party. The young women that are at the poolside, and my goodness, I can understand the man's temptation. Because, he doesn't have to. I mean, the thing with Bill Cosby was so troubling to me because Bill Cosby was my Jello man, my Jello man, and he was Jello pudding guy, and he was on TV, and he was representing black families. And then all of a sudden, all the groupies came out of the woodwork, and I do say groupies because groupies got something. They got money. They got paid. They got benefits, and when the benefits dried up, then they all came out to talk about how bad it was for them. Really? What about the people who never tried to be a groupie? Didn't try to be a groupie. I went to go see Bill Cosby one time. I paid my money. We went and saw him up in Lake Tahoe, and the audience was completely white, and I could sprinkle the black pepper that was in the audience, because black people can't really afford to, not single parents anyway. And most women that I've met in my lifetime, some have been married and had husbands and still have husbands, but a lot of them have been single mothers, raising young men. And they say that women can't raise men, but then you have to know that every intellectual man had a strong black woman behind him. And I will say that. Look at Michelle Obama. And hey, look at Barack Obama. Let's understand, they had a life that you could never even imagine. And they will have a life that you can never even imagine, because they don't have to worry for anything. On the other hand, we have to worry every day. I have 3 boys, and I'm raised my sons, and they all graduated from high school. And 2 of them were in special education. I always say that 2 were in special ed, and 1 was gifted and gate, but it really doesn't matter. All my sons learned, and that's just so true. They learned how to be survivors. They know how to make it happen. And they know how to advocate for themselves. And even if you advocate for yourself, guess what? Fairness doesn't come to you all the time. You don't win all the time, but I'm a winner. I filed a complaint with Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency because I had HUD. And initially, when I applied for the housing support to have a live-in aid because my son Tyler was autistic, and I needed some help, with the grooming and things that happen with young people that they don't normally see, but they can role model. And his father was worthless, never attempted to even be a part of his life, and then always told me that at 18 he would show up. Okay, he did. We had a breakfast at Denny's. Huh? You got to take a picture with his son. He has a son. It's a shame that people don't understand that when God blesses you with a gift, it's your gift, but it's also your responsibility to nurture, to invest. But here we are in America where black men are demoralized, criminalized, because, they don't get a job right out of high school. But if they have children, most of the time those men can't take care of their children. So they're constantly running away from the district attorney. And come on now, what the hell is that? You go to school to get an education, to be self-sufficient. And for whatever reason, halfway through the program, you get kicked out. Can you help me with that? And now you're not in a program at all. You're in and out. And then you got to have a hustle. And then marijuana was so readily available. I'll say that. I can't see anybody, but I know that people follow me. So I don't get to see them because I figured out how to go live. And I don't get to engage them either because I can't see, how to add them in here. But that's okay. I'm not going to stop talking. I'm going to tell you that, nothing is free in America. You have to research. You have to know the rules. You have to enforce the rules. You have to hold people accountable. When I came here to Clark County, because I was such an avid, I want to say, I enjoy going to public meetings because I know what I'm talking about. And I've been going for so long, public education meetings, that, it was like I would race to get there because I would want to hear what they had to say so I could say, well, maybe this or maybe that, And I have years and years and years of public meetings in my YouTube page because every time I would go to the Sac City board meeting, then I would record, what I had to say or what they had to say, and then I would record my responses because everybody should be there. I mean, we live in the land where Thurgood Marshall said if we go to the public schools and we become integrated, that we needed to watch over the resources to ensure that the resources we're still getting to our children. Well, guess what? They're not. And willful defiance, and and then to have teachers who are in special ed have the nerve to say that, well, because child's in special ed, that's why they're there, because they need help. Well, of course they need help, but you need to, number one, demonstrate that you can support that kid. Demonstrate that you're doing something that's making a difference. Special ed doesn't mean that you're somehow incompetent or don't have the ability to learn. There are different types of support that you can give to a child when they need support in education. And so, let's see, you can have an auditory processing disorder. You can be a verbal learner. You can be a visual learner. You could be a visual verbal learner. However you need to have it is the way you need to have it. And the federal government has made laws and rules to ensure that you get to have that access. So let's not play the game like special ed is irrelevant, because it's not. It is irrelevant if you don't understand the rules. And everybody has to understand the rules. So you need to write and request a basic evaluation. And like the full educational evaluation, let me see if I can go to Rights Law. And actually, I don't know if I can do it right here. Maybe I can. And maybe I can. I can see where I'm open at. Where's the window open? Because I can't see it. Oh, I see it. Let me see. I think I'm on there. All right. Here we go. Here we go. And I'm going to get this. And I'm going to Command C and copy it and bring it into my room and put it right here. Command V. There. There is Rights Law. And anything you need to know about special education, it's an organization right there in Sacramento. You can go and write logs. And then you can ask, what do I need to do if my child is failing? How can I get my child assessed? What are my rights? And everything is online. You know, just even this IDEA thing for special education, ideal. This one, ideals at work, and the let me see, let me see, Command C. I have to copy that and put it over here so that you can see that, Command V. Okay, let's see. I put something in there. What did I put in there? Okay, the first, link that I put in talks about COVID and what's happening at the Office of Special Education. There's a special education rules and guidance at the federal level. There's special education rules and guidance at the county level, and there's rules and guidance at the state level. And there should be rules and guidance at your local district level. And, just how many kids are making it, it should be your business, should be your concern. Why would you want to put your child in an environment where no other kids are being successful? We got to check ourselves because we've already wrecked ourselves, really, when it comes to just what's happening in the public education system for all American children. It's just not some, but it's all. All are at risk when they only focus on the last 30% of the children who are financially well off, and their families have quite a bit of money, and they understand how to play the game. So when open enrollment time comes, well, they apply to be where they want to be, and usually money talks and everything else walks. You see over there at Edward Kimball and Cesar Chavez, it was kind of like the same thing at Harm Johnson and West Campus. Harm Johnson and West Campus shared the same school resource code, the same code, meaning that all the money that was coming to Johnson High School was parted off and shared with West Campus, because the children who were attending Harm Johnson were not the same children who were attending West Campus. West Campus was a better school. You had to apply to go there. It was an open enrollment school. But Harm Johnson was just a school in the hood alongside, Sacramento High. And, the story behind Sac High was, the superintendent, Jim Sweeney at that time, was not utilizing the assessments, but he was taking all that federal money. And they had some obligations to meet for the federal dollars that they couldn't meet. So therefore, Kevin Johnson, he was a basketball star. I think he wanted to do something in the community, and, he stepped up. But then they had something on him to try to keep him in line. It's the same thing they had on him to keep him in line when he was the mayor. But look at what he could accomplish. Let's not pretend that he wasn't magnificent in his accomplishments. So, but we're still talking, right? I'm still here. I'm not gone anywhere. I think early 2000, they said I had breast cancer. And, the doctor said, oh, see that dust? Yeah, that dust is, that's cancer. And I'm saying, okay, I'm trying to understand what he's saying. But then, now I look at my medical records. It said I had a tumor. I didn't have a tumor. But guess what? Who cares? I'm still living. I had no treatment except for they cut it off, just like in Africa where they cut the women's breast off and sewed me up. And then, I was supposed to get prosthesis and certain things, and I haven't gotten them since we moved here, but every state is different. I didn't know that I was a different citizen in California, and now I'm a different citizen in Nevada. And in Nevada, they don't even listen to me. So all of my concerns in regards to public education, my goodness. I said, how many children are reaching the third grade at grade level? And then just disaggregate that data for me. Break it down between the ethnicities. And they said, oh, well, we don't disaggregate the data. Oh, well, why would you get a principal to tell you anything about the money that's coming to a school? That would be a violation of FARPA. And I said, what's FARPA? I had to think about it. For a minute. It's the Freedom of Information Act, Personal Information Act, that they can't identify certain students in certain programs. It was a joke. It was not a joke. It was real though, because they really lean on that FARPA to protect their behinds because they're not educating all children. And then they only had seven children who graduated with the ability to go to UC Standard who were African American. And then just to try to join the NAACP, I joined, I paid my dues, and it was just worse here in Nevada than it was in California. At least in California, I could attend the meetings and have a conversation, but here, the meetings are run like they're doing a workshop. They bring people in, they do a workshop for the NAACP meeting, and then they end the meeting. And they don't have no public conversation. And they're going to do what they want to do. So they bring big people in, from the community, like the chancellors from the colleges, and they're talking to the people. But guess what? The people that they were talking to can't even get into their programs because they're not graduating high school. So somebody just needs to tell me. I mean, a few kids that are getting out here and really getting out of Las Vegas don't want to stay. My goodness. I mean, it's real. But COVID is real too. And they want to pretend that that's not real too. But COVID is real. And people are dying out there. And I'm not marching out there, trying to get out there to be heard when I know here is where I need to be. Sharing my concerns about what's going on and trying to help people to understand what their basic rights are. Failure should never be an option in public education. How is it that we have so many children who have failed and still got promoted? Somebody got to help me with that because, failure didn't keep them from being promoted to the next grade. And everybody got paid. And everybody went on vacation. Summer vacation is real. So is Christmas break. So is Easter break. All that money is paid. And then plus, on top of that, people get health care and pension, everything. And what's happening to the people who look like me? It's a joke. It's worse than a joke because, life in poverty, especially when you don't know how to do what I know how to do, it's criminal. Let's just really talk about that. I mean, we could look at the data, and I would encourage you to look at the data. They keep on trying to change it so it looks so much better. So now they got this dashboard that just shows these colors. And then, the red is there. Okay, red means red. Still, stop. You're hurting the community. The teachers want to go on strike, but the teachers had it in their contract. They didn't want to have to work with people who were special ed, and they didn't want to have to do a lot of things. And here, it's amazing, but they get to have the professional development money, and they don't even have to work at the poverty schools. And so everybody gets a share of the equal money. It's like, sprinkle the money and everybody gets some money. Everybody gets some money. And then at the mid-year, may revise. Then they take the money where they hired the unprofessional teachers at the higher poverty schools where nobody's making any progress and they're still program improvement after so many years. And then they take that money and move it over there to the magnet programs where so few poverty kids are in those programs. Clueless, they're not in there. And so, how are resources actually allocated when they feel, even in California, that was the problem with the, I want to say, there was a real problem with the DAC. Because when I had the DAC, I had 95 people in the room. I was like, as many people came, and they all got to participate. But then when I left, they started controlling things again and got people in there that wanted to be important and got treated special. And they cut everybody else out. And then they didn't have any parent involvement. And it really didn't matter because, the state's not looking. Nobody's looking anymore. Nobody's looking at outcomes. And they're just a burden on the system. And I do mean a burden on the system. Let's understand that if you're not learning, you're just there. And you're a behavior issue. Willful defiance. How many times, Sac City got in trouble. And early on, before the 2000s, and it was in the 90s, and they were got punished by the federal government. And feds came in and they were having too many kids being suspended or told, just go home. I don't want to see you no more. Don't show up. And, people felt privileged to say that. Because guess what? Nobody was going to do anything to them. And this is where we are right now. The school system is screwed. So many children are ignorant. They're out there marching. They don't have nothing to lose. They didn't get really, if they had something to value, do you think they'd risk it out there trying to talk about Black Lives Matter? Why should we even talk about any lives matter? If you're an American citizen and, your parents have served in the military, then you understand that you are a citizen and definitely you have some rights to speak up. And guess what? No one can stop you. This is all about follow me or subscribe to my channel. Follow me or listen up. Because guess what? If you're not following anybody, then pretty much you might be stuck in that idiot box. Because, Guiding Light and Search for Tomorrow and Young and the Restless and Gilligan's Island and A Horse Named Ed, and we can just go on and on and on about all this shit that's crammed up in our heads, and that, we have to take a mental break. I thought I was going crazy when Bush was in office and Dexter was on. And I watched that whole series and it just kept on getting mentally unstable. I couldn't even think about what was really going on and what was the whole intent behind all that dysfunction. Because it was a criminal mind that put that crap together. But then that's what we're sharing with the community. Criminal behavior. My goodness, none of us have walked the same journey. None of us have experienced the same thing. So we can't even pretend that we understand. Let's see, I met Dick Gregory, and I met a couple of other people, and I came close to shaking Obama's hand because I was in the same room with him, and he was close. But the whole thing is that I did meet Elizabeth Warren, and I've met other people, in Congress, and it really doesn't matter. What matters in life is what are you willing to do to ensure that your tribe make it. And you have a tribe. If you have children, you had a tribe. But, what are you willing to do to ensure that the same things that were available to you are available to your children and your grandchildren? Quite frankly, we haven't done enough. We haven't done anything since the 60s. And it's in our minds. Michael Daley used to really try to partner with the district, and the district wouldn't give him a penny. And Sonia was online talking about how she's doing all this work in the community, but guess what? They're not giving her any support. And all the money comes in the community based on the number of people who are living in poverty. And then all those people getting paid out of money to provide support for people in poverty. And then, well, what's happening to the people? Are they being educated? I don't believe so. Are they being self-sustaining? I don't believe so. I don't even know what the intent behind public education is anymore if it's not to help you all along the way. What is it? To help these people maintain their retirement or their health care? What's important to them should be important with what they're trying to accomplish or what they're trying to achieve. But that's kind of like the least important thing that we're talking about. Here in Clark County, they want the parents to sign a waiver, said that they will not be responsible should that child come up with COVID in the public school system. And I'm saying, okay, what should I think about that? And I really don't know. I can share right here. I can send this in the message. This is the only way I can do it. I'm on my iPad, and then I could try and get somebody in the room to hang out and talk, because they don't let you see anybody that's online. You can't really see anybody. You can't really, I don't know. I'm not famous, but I have been around for a long time. I've been working freely, advocating for my children, and in advocating for my children, truly learning the system. And I know the system. And I know that one thing, closed mouth can't get fed. So if we, the people, do not have a voice in the oversight to ensure that our children are benefiting, well, guess what? What's been allowed to happen is real. We've just been allowed to fail, fail to thrive, and people still get paid. That's what I'm saying. How is it that you have so many kids in high school, in high school, and then it's still going on because you have to look. You have to look at the data of the number of kids who are coming in JC, junior college, and they've got to stay there an extra time simply because they're not prepared. When I know that my son, Tyler, he graduated with MLA writing. I used to say, well, what is MLA writing? Oh, but then when I took him over there to City College to be assessed, he doesn't need any more English. English is not something that he needs. So here we are, and still in the COVID, and still trying to figure out, what's this world looking like? What's this world looking like for people like everybody's different? We should not just put down and pretend that you're a child's in special ed and they can't make progress because every child can learn. It's just, how are they learning? What have you done? I don't even know what to say because we have far too many kids in special education that are getting letter grades of F. Can you tell me why? Can somebody help me understand why the letter grade F is acceptable when you're in special education? I can't get anybody to even join in that I can actually see. But that's okay, because that's something that you will need to answer yourself. Why would you accept a letter grade of F when we're supposed to be measuring the maintenance of effort and really supposed to be talking about how much the child has improved, what's happening, what do they think that would need to support the student more? And come on now, we only got scholars here, and scholars are young people. And if we saw our young people and we treasured our young people, perhaps we wouldn't let this go on. But some of my people, they're just as bad as everybody else. They just think that people should just hop up and do it. And I'm saying, what can you do if you can't read? I mean, what is the expectation when there's no obligation to ensure that you can participate at grade level? Is what I really want to know. So every year, these kids are being promoted to the next grade without making adequate yearly progress. And that's AYP, the adequate yearly progress, that maintenance of effort, that stuff that you're supposed to all get together and talk about what you need to do differently to ensure that access is happening for all kids. I mean, where does that conversation come in? Because it doesn't happen here in Clark County. They don't talk about educational concepts or student achievement at the Clark County School Board, but they damn sure do sign a lot of contracts. They are just there to push the money out the door. And the money comes in, and as fast as the money comes in, it's getting pushed out. Heck, they're even giving money to charter schools. And not independent charter schools that are out there, and they claim that they have a summer program for two Title I children. And I was supposed to listen to that and think, what? That fraud wasn't going on? It's fraud. I hate to say it. Need to be careful. I can identify it when I see it. Really. I mean, it doesn't matter, because we have to be held accountable for what we are doing to this planet. R. Kelly has a song out about planet. You need to listen to that song. Perhaps you needed to listen to Nipsey Hussle. What he was singing, about what he was singing, paying all those $100,000 in taxes, and still unable to get ahead, always waiting for somebody to come and take all their stuff. That happened when black people were trying to sell the marijuana. They go in and bust them and take all their stuff and then sell it to their friends. Come on now, we can't pretend that stuff didn't happen. It was going on. They would watch people for a long time, and then all of a sudden they would bust them. and bust everybody in the crime thing, selling weed, making money, making a living. And then they would sell their stuff to their friends. And they would only know when they would have an auction. And they would tell their friends to buy it all. Come on now. People are coming up on the backs of people every day. And especially here, I mean, here in Clark County, we have all these older people. Well, quite frankly, they are, you know, they can take them and put them in a home and then sell their stuff, sell their property. You don't have any rights, no human rights. You don't have human rights because they're not affording human rights to people. I thought it was strange, but maybe it wasn't, that I had went to a public meeting and recorded a public event only to say that my video had committed an illegal operation by recording someone that was in the meeting. Get that. Understand, this is America, and we've lost so much, but we can't afford to lose anymore. So that's why it's critical. It's so important that, you figure out just where your child is. If you have a child that's school age and your local district has not contacted you yet in regards to, what's going to happen, are you willing to sign that paper, that waiver that alleviates the district for the safety of your kid? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't sign a waiver because public education is compulsory and mandatory. And if they can put you in jail behind it, then you could do some things to them too. You know what I'm saying? You have a right to have an expectation that support be real. You have a right to have an expectation that the maintenance of effort really is acquired. That you're measuring and monitoring good outcomes, and that your child is successful and happy and can read and can comprehend and can communicate effectively. Effective communication is critical in life. I could talk forever, but I would really want to have somebody to ask me a question about special education, especially since I had one child who was non-specific disability, and that just means that the disability was non-specific, but was still entitled to support. And then I had a child that had autism, and then I had a gifted and intelligent child. So here we are, and we, the people, we who have not stood together in how many years? How long has it been since Black people have come together and had the ability to have a conversation? And really, I thought that when the county commission, that county person that was out there did a study on infant death mortality, and Black people had the highest infant death mortality in the state of California, right there in Sacramento. I mean, we had the highest deaths from 0 to 17, and then probably 35. But the death category was for 20 years. Highest death category. Meaning that our kids are dying in all the kind of negative things at a higher rate than any other people. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself, is there something wrong with people who look like me? Is there supposed to be something different? Because when they're in the classroom, for whatever reason, they're not learning. But why is it that it's been allowed for people to just write people off and say, oh, they didn't want to do the work? How is it they're sending kids home with no homework because they can't communicate with those children and they left them a long time ago? You see, if the district is allowed to continue to document children that are far, far below grade level, that just means that they dropped off the boat a long time ago. Who knows when they stop learning? But they're just there to generate that damn paycheck. And not only the paycheck now, we have to understand that they need health care benefits. And not only health care, they got to have that damn pension too. And, how much money are they spending? Because I remember the superintendents, the last couple of superintendents walked out with over $500,000 annually, and they still get paid. They still get paid out of the funds. Just because they retired doesn't mean they don't get their money. They retired with that amount of money. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And who decides how much money the people in the public school system get? Did you ever want to know that question? Well, did you ever look in the mirror and understand that it's you? It's you when you don't show up. It's you when you do show up. It's you because the public is overseeing the public education system. And so when the public don't show up, then willful defiance is what you get. Unwillingness to learn is what you get. And, it's so bad now that, what do you do when some kids are so far behind? What are you going to do? But, in Europe, they've already decided how that would go. If you're not at a certain level, whatever, by 8th grade, then you're kind of like, and you're going to do something else. And I don't know what you're going to do, but you're not going to, certain things you're not going to do. It's like stay in school. You're not going to stay in school. So, what can I say when I say that we, the people, we are the American people, and we have a personal responsibility to ourselves. And that's to understand how the system works. Truly, you have to know what to expect in order to even acquire anything. Like on my, I've been on for 51 minutes and 6 seconds, and quite frankly, I haven't seen any people. They don't show you any people, and it doesn't show you that you can invite people because you don't get to see the people, and it's all control. But it's control, but it's part of that network management, not really allowing people to build themselves. You understand? I don't have to worry about it because I'm already built. I've already put the time in, the work in. My kids graduated from high school, and I have helped other children. And I know what I know, and no one can take that from me. But what I do know is that parents choose. Choice is everything, and we are beings of choice. And our choice as a people have to be willing to stand up and talk about what's going on around us. We have to see the end data, the outcomes. And then we have to question, could those outcomes really be better? Because they really could get better. My son went from far, far below basic to above proficient. And that was because every time we met, we talked about what was working and what wasn't working. Now, if you have a child in public school and you're not asking what's working, what are you getting? What is the curriculum really offered to a kid? It offers nothing if you can't access the curriculum. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, if you're not even engaging the children's mind and making them think. Sonia was saying that, she's just teaching older kids but not used to teaching younger kids. My sister Tony is wonderful with the younger children, but she wants to work with the older children. I mean, but, we have to learn to work together to ensure that access happens. So I'm on Facebook, but, hey, I was in Sacramento for so long, but I really do know what I'm talking about. And quite frankly, I really expect a response if I ask a question. If I put a question in writing and ask how many third graders in Clark County are making it to the third grade reading level. And then so somebody on a Zoom said, oh, they got that information, but guess what? They didn't bring it before the public. And they said that was a mandate from Clark County. No, it was a mandate from the federal government. I mean, public education is a mandate from the federal government. It's to offer faith. And that means a free public free public information, education. Get all twisted up there. But, when we're talking about education, what does that entail? Well, it entails everything, anything. If you can't speak, there's support for you, language development. If you have a problem with writing, there's support for you, occupational therapy, OT. And, there's all kind of ways to teach the body how to become calm and learn and be competitive. Everything in life is about learned behavior. And children do learn. And some children learn. All children learn. It's just what do they learn and how do they learn it and how easy it is for them or how difficult it is for them and what can you do to ensure that they are learning. But first, you got to make sure that task completion is it every day. You got to have homework. You got to do the work. You got to push yourself. You got to do the research. You have to know your rights in America. Because if you don't know your rights, you ain't got no rights. Absolutely none. Nobody has to do anything for you. Don't worry about it. And they're not going to do anything for you. So don't worry about it. We, the people of America, we, the minority people who used to be minorities, who are no longer minorities, white people are minorities. There's so many people of color that are here. And people who came through the lineage of slavery have a right to citizenship. I think we're the only citizens in America because everybody else is immigrants and they came over as immigrants and then they got citizenship. But hell, we were stolen and forced to work and still forced to work and still forced to produce. That our children, they take them as a resource and we have to stop that. We have to make sure that the benefit is to the young people and that there's accountability. And that we're not paying for a broken system. It's kind of like one of those singers said, he was happy that Donald Trump became the president because we had to break the system before, we could put it back together again. And, he just might be right. Might have to break the system before you can put it back together again. But going back to school and signing a waiver that you won't hold anybody accountable if your child gets a COVID? Seriously? You take a risk every time you go out of your house. You take a risk every time you go to the grocery store to get food. It's a risk because you don't know who got the COVID. And you don't know how it's being spread. And you don't know nothing. So the only thing you could do is to be cautious. And it's kind of like, you got the warning. Heed the warning. And before you send your child back to any public agency, request an assessment be done so you know what grade level work your child can actually do. Because you need to start at the beginning. So if your child got skipped by and was getting letter grades of S or getting better grades and really never had any homework, check yourself because you got wrecked. Got to be able to do the work, no matter what it is. Got to be able to complete the assignments. It's called executive functioning. Got to be able to coordinate the services. Stop asking for permission. Understand that if you got to ask for permission, you're probably don't know you have the right. And that's just written. So I've been on the Facebook Live for 58 minutes and not one person. I see people up there. It shows you like you have two people in the room, but you can't see the people or so you can't even acknowledge them. It doesn't even show you who they are. Everybody has different restrictions, and these are restrictions and policies are applied to individuals like myself and perhaps like, Sonia. You got some policies applied to you, and you're in the group, and that's why your stuff is not working because, it's policy written. You probably should write to the FTC and say, how is it I bought this laptop that's supposed to go online and for whatever reason it's not doing it? It's what you need to do. And complain. And complain to Apple too. They'll fix it. They fix mine. I can go online live, but I just can't see anybody. But that's okay because it's not going to stop me from going online live. And I will say this too. I will say that Dick Gregory, he preached his whole life about tell-lie vision, and that we all need to understand that the vision that the television has given us is not true. I mean, that hustle and flow. Remember when that song won? And I was saying, okay. I was trying to understand where that was coming from. It was a little bit frightening. It's just the expectation that they have for us. It's unacceptable. Our children have a right, the same equal rights as any other individual on the face of this earth. Even if they are disabled, they have a right to have the services that would help bring them equal. That's what I mean. You know, you have a right to get to the services. So whatever it takes, they got to spend it. They only got to spend it if you demand that they spend it. So here we go. So my sister said I should always put it out here. If you have questions, concerns, ask me. And I will try to do my best to share some information with you that will empower you to ensure that your child is successful as they can be. Because you only can push yourself to do the excellence that you're willing to put yourself through. You got to push to do something. So I'm about to log off now. And I will say, I'm going to save this video and see if I can put it on my YouTube channel. And I will say follow me, and I will say subscribe. And I will say, never, never give up. Never, ever give up. We have to keep fighting until we're not hearing. We have to make a difference. We have to say, I'm going to make a difference every single day that I'm on this earth. And I'm going to ensure that people understand the opportunity to be free is real. But you have to demand that freedom. And the policies that they apply to your devices are only policies. They can be changed. I mean, they can kick you off. They can make your laptop so it won't even connect on the internet. And, even if it's new, it's kind of crazy what they can do. But, people like to watch people and show that they're gods. They think they're gods. And I remember when I was in Sacramento. Now, this is sick. But I remember when I was in Sacramento and I was going to the chiropractor. And I was going to a chiropractor not connected to Kaiser, but, that was through, one of those, whatever, papers. They give you permission to go outside of Kaiser. But then Kaiser said they could give me chiropractic services. And then all of a sudden, when these chicks are doing it, I couldn't walk. It's no lie. I just couldn't walk. And then every morning, at about 5:30, I would wake up with uncontrollable spasms if I slept at home. But if I slept in my mother's house, I could actually sleep all night. And then we went to Angel's Camp, and I could actually sleep at night. So when I got back from Angel's Camp, I took that that Comcast cable, and ripped it all away from my house. And I turned it off, and I told them to come get their shit. And that's just real. And I'm never going to have an enclosed house again where they can, shoot a ray down and watch me as I wake up in pain. Now that's sickness and that's mental illness. And believe me, I'm not crazy. I know it happened because actually we were out there in the Elder Wattle Hills area, whatever. Went to a estate sale. And then you know how the little satellite just kind of like drops low. You can see it's a satellite. Then all of a sudden the car stopped working in the middle of the intersection. Not only my car, other cars did it too. So you just can't get one. It happens to other people when you do crazy kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I would go to the parks when there were whatever, and the police would go, oh, that's Mrs. Anderson. Isn't that Mrs. Anderson? Police asking, is that Mrs. Anderson? Come on now. It is Mrs. Anderson. I'm not going anywhere. As long as God lets me be here, I'm going to be right here talking about what we need to talk about. And that's access. That's the opportunity to learn. That's the only thing you ever got that will enable you to be independent. But you have to make sure that we protect that. We haven't protected it. We need to figure out how we come together and talk about what's happening for the public school system for the children who look like us. We need to take control over the failure. We cannot continue to allow them to do what they're doing because they're living their lives on the back of our children. If our children don't learn, then all of their family lives and all that good living that they're living is on the back of our children. It's time to wake up. My people, wake up. Enough is enough. We are sustaining a dysfunctional system. We don't have to. Demand better. Failure should never be an option. And like I said, if you're not happy or you're not being successful in one area, you need to figure it out and find somewhere else. You know, your president said you have choice. You better understand what that choice entails. That's what I'll say. Because the choice is not to be in a failed environment, not to accept failure. And understand, just because, they give you an A, the value of that A needs to be a real, something really worth it, you know? Because when I met this one mother, she said, "Oh, my son got a 4.0. He got 4.0. He's in the special ed program at San Brandon." And I'm saying, "Okay, how does he have 4.0? He's a special ed." Okay, I really want to know. That boy was doing second grade work in an eighth grade class. And then the teacher tried to explain to me that, that's all he could do. No, that wasn't all he could do. That was as far as they were willing to take him. Because in Sacramento City Unified School District, they Z-code the curriculum. That means that drop it down to where they think you are, and that's where you stay for your whole journey in there. So, parents need to know more about education so you can demand accountability. You need to understand what it means, to be promoted without making any progress. And you need to understand that all those assessments that the district has to do, those are assessments to determine if they're functional or if they're teaching or is it working, and they need to hold themselves accountable to it. But if you just let them willy-nilly on the backs of your children, moving children around like resources, because that's what they become, allocations, money, my goodness, when are we going to wake up? It's so difficult to talk to people who feel they have no obligation to the foundational services that we all have to live by. Just none. They just like being appointed heads that don't know nothing. And, they will stand in the way. That's why they say crabs in the barrels or cockblockers or whatever. It's something. Because truly, it's dysfunctional. Because black kids shouldn't just be on the bottom because they're all black. Black people are brilliant. Just understand. We've created so many things in America, and our people don't even get the value of it. And then you just have to look at the performance. What was the Kobe effect all about? Kobe was a great ball player. That's what he was. A great ball player. He was a great ball player. That's all I know. He had children that he didn't get a chance to raise. I know that. But he's not a god. We have so many people who could do so much if they just demanded a little bit of accountability for the money that they put into the system that sustains all of us. Everybody has to participate in the voting arena. Everybody has to open their mouth. Open, and talk about the outcomes of failure in their community. So, maybe the Latinos are talking about it over there and the Asians are talking about it over there, but we're other people that look like me talking about it. They just ain't. They're all happy that they got what they got. Living in their house. See, that's why COVID happened. Because people were so content in the pain and agony of so many others. And that's just real. The world has to be real. There has to be a level of accountability for everyone. And so I will be back. I will say that. I put some resources up in the room. Please share my post. And, get online. Read what you have to do. Write your principal and the director of special education. Get your child assessed. Know that, grade level student achievement is what you should be looking for. And if your child is not at grade level, then they're not in the house. I mean, what are they going to do? How long is it going to take them to catch up? And when are they going to try to catch up? When is it all going to happen? I'm confused. So, anyways, I will say goodnight. And, Sonia, I try to come on, and it doesn't give you the option to invite anybody in the room on when you're on Facebook on MacBook. You got the MacBook Pro. And then, but if you're on the iPad, you can invite somebody to share a room. It's just a little button there. These have to do with policies and how policies are applied to people in groups. I guess I'm in a group, and I think I'm rated pretty high because I've had to fight to keep my laptop working because they used to turn it off in the BIOS. I just had to turn it back on. I mean, I would go out and buy another one, thinking that I beat them. But guess what? They beat me because they shut off my credit card. No, I don't have any credit cards that you can shut off. This is paid for. Thank you very much. I don't owe you nothing. So you can't turn off my shit. I've got warranty on it. Warranty on every piece of my device. And so if you turn it off, I'm going to warranty it out. That's how I figured I'd deal with you people. But I'm not going to stop talking. That's what I'm not going to do. No matter what, each one of us has a personal responsibility to ensure that public services for the people who look like us, public services for the tax allocations that are going to the community people who look like us, that they're functional, that they're working, that people are becoming sustainable, and that they're living happy lives. And this is not happy to me. Happy to me is not where people are getting letter grades of S and behavior is totally out of control, and only a small percentage of children are making it. It's unacceptable. When I see dysfunction, I like to call it out. So I've called out some dysfunction in Clark County School District, and I try to talk to the superintendent. I try to talk to my board member, Linda Cavaz. Oh, she ain't talking to me. I did talk to Linda Young, however, but she seems to have been a little bit overwhelmed because she's the only black person on the board. But it doesn't matter because they don't listen to her. And, it's all about understanding that that board can be sued. Individuals, people, sued for whatever they have. And they don't have a lot, I'm sure. But they're foolish enough to put whatever they have online to take away the rights of others. Eliminate the rights of children in Clark County. See, the law is the law. And it's just what it is. But when these children are going to jail, I mean, how ignorant was it of the young man who was chasing the young woman and they killed their child? And they were driving cars. I mean, come on now. They had automobiles, not old ones, new ones. What was their lives so complicated about that they couldn't get along? And where were all those public services that we have for communication and, divorce? And, our whole world is established on public services. Well, where are the public services functioning? I just want to know, because people have jobs. People have pensions. People have, and they're not talking about it as a community. That's what's concerning to me. There's so much going on, but the real conversation is not happening from the community's perspective. So much failure in the public education system. It's crazy that they have different levels of diplomas or high school graduations. And then, you can, certificate of completion is in Sacramento is just what it is. But you know what? They eliminated the responsibility for them to do, what am I thinking? The high school exit exam. They just said, and it was only at 8th grade level. My children passed. Yeah, they completed, they took the 9th grade eligible proficiency exam. My children passed every assessment that were before them. Now, there were people still in 12th grade that couldn't pass that 8th grade proficiency assessment. So that's why the state board eliminated that. They're just not going to do it because it documents too much. It documents a failed system. I remember 10 years, 20, 30 years ago, 50,000 students were dropping out in LA Unified School District every year. 50,000. Let's talk about what the big cities are producing. Because, we're living in a nation that has more people in prison than any other free nation in the world. That's what we need to check ourselves out. I mean, come on now. We all have a personal responsibility. If you pay a tax, or even if you don't pay a tax, if somebody's giving you some public services, to demand the accountability and the functioning of those public services. So if you have children in school, let's stop pretending that below basic is acceptable, because it's not. Below basic is not acceptable. And our children living in a nation, in the greatest nation in the world, where we have all these black people who have been so, you know what I'm saying? And then we have what we have. It's a sad day in America. So yeah, Black Lives Matter, and you know that George Floyd killing was a straight murder. Anybody who would take that pleasure in putting pressure and showing how much control. See, that's my problem. It's the control that people feel that they have when they're doing it to you. And even when they think that you don't know that they're doing it. Because they are. And that's just real. So that's why, if, I have an issue, I will go buy something new and make me work on it. And that's just real. So, my sister thought SDA is going to be my new name online. SDA. So, I do know a lot about special education if you have concerns. I mean, if you need to know the direction, I can kind of like give you there. And until then, it's getting late. I love talking, but not that much. What time is it? 12:42. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully, there were people that couldn't sleep that watched it. But Sacramento has to have more people who are willing to get in the room and talk about the failure of public education for people who look like me. Because we're not talking about it. Believe me, everybody else is talking about it. Because they get to work in our communities. The Asians get to work in our communities. The Latinas they get money for providing services for people who look like us. And then they've got our organizations who ain't getting no money because they don't have to give you none because you don't never show up. See, it's a lot. It's a lot to understand that we have to jump in the system and pretend that we were always there, just like they're there. We just need to show up. People need to be present. And you need to demand outcomes for the investment in the public community. We have to stop allowing people to go on vacation if they haven't done the work that they should have been doing. How do we just let that continue to go on? Look at the benefit in America. Bing, bing, bing. Human capital is what we produce. Human capital. So if we're going to ensure that the investment happen in our people, we're going to have to stand up more. We're going to have to be heard. And then just not at the bottom level. It's every level. County, city, state. You got to show up. And then you got to figure out, all these people like to have these little events and honor themselves. Well, honey, I'm just not into honoring. It's all right. But you'll get yours in the end if God lets you live a little bit longer. That's how I figure it'll happen. We got too much to do, so much work to do, and we have so little time to do it. Who knows? The world could end tomorrow. And it will end just like it is. Broken. That's why it's broken. COVID is a sign of a broken world. Hurting people, and we're not living the way we should be living. So until I get ready to come back on here again, I might just figure out some videos that I can share and share the videos so that you can watch. But everybody's got to get out there and learn for themselves. Anything is possible, but nothing is possible if you're not willing to work on it. And that's just real. So a little bit at a time, every day. Wake up a little bit more. And until we see each other again, I'll be on Facebook. I'll be paying attention. And until we see each other again, good night. And till tomorrow.